purpose of a warm up is to get all of your muscles, tendons, and joints ready for the intensity to come. And this 5 minute, five move, complete full body warm up routine is something that you can use before any type of exercise for any given day to hit every single muscle, tendon, and joint. This warm up routine also incorporates mobility, which is the dynamic or active movement to improve your joint range of motion, incorporates flexibility, which is static or inactive movement to improve your joint range of motion, and lastly, a little bit of core activation. That way, you don't need to work flexibility or mobility outside of your training sessions. It hits three birds with one stone. So you can go through all these exercises, click on the links. Those will be there for you. And then going into how to set up your own workout. So based on the split that you came up with and how many days you're realistically going to get to the gym, once you figure that out in week 8, that'll determine which muscles or muscle groups you want to work in each given day for each given workout. So to start with the foundation, we want to lead off your workout after the warm up with 2 to 4 compound movements. So compound movements are multi-joint movements that hit more than one muscle or muscle group. So this will allow you to lift heavier. So some of these compound movements include squats, deadlifts, hip thrusts, lunges, push-ups, military presses, pull-ups, and rows, and all of those variations. Alongside those compound movements, I listed which muscles they worked. That way you can kind of pick and choose the ones that you want to start your workouts with. And then after you choose your 2 to 4 compound moves, then you're going to transition into a little bit of isolation work. And isolation movements are just single joint movements that hit one muscle or muscle group. So we really want to focus on those compound movements because you're going to be incorporating and hitting more muscles. So essentially less work, more value. A few isolation exercises are listed below with the muscles that they work as well. So 2 to 4 compounds and then 3 to 6 isolations. Now transitioning into a little bit of core. So core training should be treated as any other muscle group. It needs just as much rest and recovery time as any other muscle group you train. So realistically, you only need to train core 2 to 3 times a week, as well as properly engaging your core in all compound movements as well. And your core is the primary stabilizer, or it keeps the rest of your body secure and stable because it is the center and acts as our trunk while the rest of our limbs, like our arms and legs, move freely. And because our core's primary role is to stabilize the rest of the body, it's important to train it using some stabilization movements. And stabilization core movements are broken up into 3 separate categories. One is anti-lateral flexion. So this is an exercise that resists sideways bending at the spine. So that would be your side planks, your single arm farmer's walk, your kneel to standing dumbbell overhead hold. Number 2 is anti-rotation. So this resists the rotation of your lower spine. Examples here, a Pallof press hold, farmer's walk, or a bird dog. And then lastly, anti-extension resists the extension of your spine. So examples here, plank, dead bugs, rollouts, medicine ball overhead slams, and overhead plank reaches. Now, going into sets, reps, and rest, this is going to determine how many times you perform an exercise for as many rounds as well. So I broke it up based on goals, and you can have many different rep range, set range, and rest ranges incorporated into your workout routine, even if your goal is not that one specific thing. So for strength, sets here is between 3 to 6, reps 1 to 5, and your rest should be around 3 to 5 minutes because you're exerting maximal effort, which requires maximal recovery time. then transitioning into hypertrophy, which is essentially just muscle size, 3 to 5 sets here for 6 to 12 reps and 0 to 60 seconds. And lastly, endurance, 1 to 3 sets, 12 to 20 reps, and 0 to 90 seconds. So whether your goal is to train or is to gain muscle, lose body fat, or increase overall health and performance, it's important to focus on progressive overload or increasing the weight, reps, sets, or intensity every single week. It's also important, like I said before, to incorporate a variety of rep ranges to challenge your muscles and work in various resistance environments. So each rep range targets a specific type of muscle fiber. So the more rep ranges you incorporate, the more fibers you will tear, target, and grow. So to optimize muscle growth or sustain current muscle, the goal should be to target each muscle group 2 to 3 times a week. Now, talking a little bit more about progressive overload, we talked about this in the first or second week, but progressive overload is the single most important aspect of weight training to put on muscle, which is why I'm reiterating it again in week 9. Progressive overload includes increasing the amount of volume, sets, reps, and weight over a prolonged period of time in order to stimulate continuous micro tears in your muscles week after week. So each time you allow your body to recover through rest and proper nutrition, those micro tears grow back stronger, initiating strength and muscle gains. And this is a process. Progressive overload will not halt results until about the 8 to 12 week mark after starting a concrete fitness routine, because it takes time for muscle fibers to build on top of each other and repair properly. This is why sticking to certain movement patterns and exercises is so important for 1 to 3 months at a time, rather than bouncing around your training sessions with no direction, with no plan, and just kind of experimenting with movements every single day. So a simple progressive overload rule of thumb is to increase the weight you're using after hitting the top of a specified rep range and starting back down at the bottom. So rep ranges include 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 15, and 15 to 20. So if you're working with a specific weight and you start at 6 reps, goal is to push that weight to 8 reps over a prolonged period of time, over a couple weeks. And once you hit the top of that rep range, once you hit that 8th rep, that's when you increase your weight and push it back down to 6 reps. Another way, or another few ways to incorporate progressive overload, not only increasing the weight or the reps, but adding in some supersets, so less rest time between adding some drop sets, again, hitting different muscles because you're using different rep ranges, improving your form and technique, really focusing on that mind to muscle connection, increasing your frequency or the amount of times that you're hitting that specific muscle or muscle group, slowing it down. So really focusing on tempo or the time it takes you to perform an exercise. Those are a few other variations. Now, in terms of exercise setup and variations, there are countless ways to vary a certain exercise. And it kind of just comes down to whichever variation works best for you, whichever variation you feel the most mind to muscle connection in, and you can use as many or as little variations as you want. Some examples: single-sided, right, left, both variations, half single-sided, half double. You can do variations with equipment, so using dumbbells instead, barbells, machine plates, plate-weighted machine, TRX bands, so on and so forth. You can vary it using a different positioning, so standing, seated, lying, single leg, kneeling, B stance, etc. Different variables. So this is something that is really emphasized in the Complete Confidence program or Complete Confidence coaching. So incorporating tempo, isometric holds, pulses, 1.5 reps, pyramid, drop sets, reverse pyramid, then lastly pairing. So that would be like supersets, pairing 2 exercises together with minimal rest, trisets, 3 exercises, and giant sets, which is 4 or more. And then the visual next to these variation examples just kind of gives you an overview of what some of these variations can look like for a specific exercise. Now, this just goes into some workout examples with variations next to it. I came up with these on the spot based on goals. So the top lower body workout is for strength and muscle size. So we started out with a 4x4 barbell squat, that compound exercise with the strength reps and strength sets. Next to it, I state a few variations that you could choose. And then just going down the line, we have the 3 compound exercises with the 3 isolation underneath. And I incorporated a few variations just to give you an idea of what it could look like. Same thing for the pull day, except this pull day focuses primarily on muscle size or hypertrophy. So the rep ranges are a little bit higher. Um, but effort should still be pretty high. You should still be exerting yourself pretty well. Um, and like I said before, this template is in this same module. You can download it, keep it forever. Just make sure to make your own copy before editing it. I already incorporated the warm up in there. Underneath, you'll be able to input your compound exercises, your isolation exercises, and then core as well. And then that red line in the middle just helps you remember to progressive overload every single week. So that just talks about hitting